Hey everybody, this week on Lore Friday, we're going to be taking a look at Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. A little bit of a tongue twister there, and this is the second of the level 4 adventures for the Candlekeep Mysteries series. This one takes place entirely in Candlekeep. This is a really good, full, cohesive story that doesn't involve any kind of portals to other planes. Or does it? No, actually it doesn't. All right, so what happens in Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme? This is an ask where the characters need to try to solve the mystery of a curse that is connected to a song that people can't stop singing. As I mentioned, the setting for this takes place entirely in Candlekeep Library. More specifically, there's an area called the Firefly Cellar, which is sort of a residential research area of the library. Now, the teaser for this one is that recently a scholar in residence checked out a children's book for research, and now the Firefly Cellar is full of people cursed with a macabre singing rhyme that is gradually turning them insane. The backstory on this one is that 600 years ago, a rare book peddler brought a children's book to Candlekeep. Shortly thereafter, a madness began spreading in the great library. Now that someone is researching the same book, a singing madness is spreading once again. All right, so let's take a look at the synopsis. And this time I'm going to go back to normal and try not to reveal too much of the plot. So people are playing, they won't have too many spoilers here. All right, so within the Firefly Cellar, which is one of the residential study areas of Candlekeep, a singing madness has caused the Avowed to enact a lockdown quarantine. Madness is a kind of curse, and the PCs must discover the source of the curse and how to resolve it, or remove it. And during this time, a series of increasingly creepy and potentially lethal events occurs, until the source of the curse is found and somehow the curse is removed. Alright, PCs need to research something in one of the books that is kept in the residential research area of Candlekeep known as the Firefly Cellar. After they spend their first night in this cellar, the PCs all wake up with a tune in their head that they can't stop humming. A little bit later on, they realize that others that are in the cellar are also humming the same tune. And very shortly thereafter, one of the Avowed locks herself and the PCs and everyone else who is in the cellar down there. And she explains that the humming matches documented cases of a curse from hundreds of years ago that threatened to infect everyone in Candlekeep. Effectively, this Avowed has quarantined herself, the PCs, and everyone else in the Firefly Cellar. So after that, bizarre, violent, and potentially lethal events begin occurring. All of these are connected to this tune that people keep humming, and later they start singing the words to this tune, which are a bit disturbing. The song, it has a tune that's very similar to a lilting children's rhyme, but it's about some grisly and macabre events that occur to one poor family. And that results in the mother, the father, and the son all being maimed or killed. And the antagonist that seems to be behind these events that befall the family is someone or something that's called Shemshime. And while people are getting more and more affected by this curse, gradually events begin occurring in the Firefly Cellar, and it starts to become apparent that perhaps the same Shemshine from this song is responsible for the curse and the violence around the PCs. So it's this thing where the psychological suspense and the, uneasiness and the creepiness just keeps ratcheting up and up and up and up and up. So now, trapped in the cellar with the PCs are several NPCs that all know a few details that can be helpful. However, none of them knows the whole story, and none of the NPCs have the knowledge that's needed to stop the curse. In order to do that, the PCs must discover the origins and the resolution for the curse through investigation of their own, and piecing together what the NPCs know and how that relates to the events that are unfolding. So it's this thing where you get a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. None of it on its own is going to help you, but as you begin to assemble all these pieces, a picture starts to take shape of what you need to do to resolve the curse. It feels kind of like a nod to Alfred Hitchcock, is what it feels like. Is that kind of that sort of psychological terror type thing that's going on in this particular story here? Now, the most common enemies that you face are, well, it's kind of a toss-up. The enemies are either cursed humanoids, meaning people that are quarantined in the cellar with the PCs, or they are undead, because this curse does tend to manifest undead. The single toughest encounter, other than potentially one of the other PCs or a PC against the entire party, the toughest encounter would be Shemshime itself, which is a CR4 undead. And making this encounter even more difficult is that there's only one special way that Shemshime can actually be killed or destroyed. And the special creatures or items in this adventure are Shemshime itself and a gnomish puzzle book. My favorite elements of the adventure include the ambiance. This is a perfect Halloween session for an existing D&D group. If you have an ongoing game and you're wanting to play that and have like a special Halloween edition, if you ever do like holiday session within your game, this would be like a really good one to do around Halloween because of the spooky nature of it. Another thing I really like is the maps that they give you for the Firefly Cellar. Now, the Firefly Cellar, it sounds like it's one cellar level, but it's actually 3 different levels. So there's a sub-level 1, a sub-level 2, and then a sub level into this cellar. So it's a nice compact area, but it's on 3 different levels. So that map can also be kind of a cool thing that you could use to put into another game. And if you want to keep it as like a cellar type of thing, you could make it a multi-level wine cellar or a multi-level library cellar, something like that. And you could have all kinds of little adventures, or you could have it be like an abandoned bunker or some kind, or a haunted bunker if you wanted to, in an adventure that you're running. Or it could even be like the basement of another structure that you're running your characters through, as some sort of like wizard's tower or something like that, that it could be the basement for. Easiest homebrew adaptation. I guess less adaptation than easiest homebrew setting. If you have a homebrew game and your players enjoy psychological thrillers and spooky stories, this is a really great adventure to drop into a campaign with that kind of player makeup. And then in terms of using this with other editions, well, there's only one unique monster, and everything else in the adventure in terms of a creature has appeared in at least one previous edition of D&D. So there's not really a whole lot that has to be converted. The actual stat block for Shemshime, which is the unique undead, you might have to find something that sort of matches in another, and then there's like one or two little special unique features that you would just have to tack on to that monster from another edition if you wanted to do that. I know that I've been kind of general and I've been a little bit cagey in this one, and I haven't given you a whole lot of description of what the plot is, but that's basically because I don't want to spoil the story too much. This does have a very nicely developed story to it, and there are sequences of events that happen that really sort of tick up the tension along the way. And that is another element, I should say, about this adventure that's really good. If you want to think about how you can take a tense situation and then gradually ratchet it up to be more and more and more tense, this gives you a good structure. If you strip away all of the individual elements, you can either make it something that's a psychological thriller like an entity, in the case of this story, where an entity is sort of manipulating things to cause the tension to increase. Or you could even do it in something like an impending natural disaster or an impending magical disaster or something like that. Imagine, if you will, that your players are in a scenario for an adventure where there's like some sort of magically induced overload situation that's happening. If you think about science fiction, one of the tropes in science fiction is that some machine has gone into overload, and if the characters in the show or the movie can't figure out a way to stop the overload, it's going to explode and destroy whatever. Destroy the facility they're in, destroy the spaceship they're on, destroy the space station they're on, whatever it is. So there's an incentive. They need to stop this or else everybody's going to die. And this particular adventure takes that same kind of thing and it sort of ratchets that up. And if you look at how they do that, you could take out all of the specific elements for Shemshime's bedtime rhyme and replace that with elements that would make sense for the story you're trying to tell. So whether it's a situation that, a mad wizard has set off a chain reaction that he or she can no longer stop. Maybe in setting off that reaction, the wizard themselves was killed or was, transported to some extra dimension and has no way of getting back. So that person can't stop it, and the PCs need to figure out how to stop it. But as they go along, and as the power level, this runaway magical effect, as it gets greater and greater, more and more things start to happen. And so this would give you a template, if you will, where you could build those types of series of events up and up so that your players would feel an increasing sense of pressure, like, oh crap, we're running out of time. We really have to figure this out and get it locked down now. So that's another element, I would say, about this story that makes it kind of fun, and it's quite well written, in my opinion. I think it's a very nice self-contained event. It's probably an adventure that you could run in a single sitting of your D&D game. If you have, let's say, anywhere between like a 3-hour and a 4 or 5 hour session, you could probably get it in, depending on the number of players and how fast they go through. All right, well, that's going to do it for our review of Shemshime's Bedtime Rhyme. and how you might go about preparing to run that adventure or mine it for elements that you would want to use in your own homebrew games. Next week, we are going to take a look at the 5th level adventure in Candlekeep Mysteries called The Price of Beauty. Okay, that's going to do it for now. And I hope that you all have a wonderful week, and I hope that we will see you back here next week for another edition of Lore Friday. Good night, everybody.